Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I am Lady Loy. You can catch me on Lovers Rock Radio every Friday 7 till 9 or on Gold Standard Radio every Saturday 7 till 9. Now, today's food for the heart is about auditioning for love. What is that about, Lady Loy? Well, I'm going to tell you. I wonder how many of us have spent part of our lives trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned in the first place. Not respect, not kindness, not acceptance, and certainly not love. Yet many of us have found ourselves quietly auditioning for it. We become the person who is always available, always understanding, always forgiving, always making the effort, hoping that one more act of kindness, one more sacrifice, or one more compromise will finally convince someone that we're worth loving. We don't usually realise we're doing it because it doesn't feel like an audition. It feels like we're being a good person. But somewhere beneath all that giving can be a quiet fear that if we stop performing, the applause will stop too. That is a hungry place for the heart to live, because one of our deepest human needs is to know that we are loved for who we are, not for what we provide. We all want to know that if life became difficult tomorrow, if we became ill, if we lost our confidence, lost our job, or simply had nothing left to give for a while, someone would still choose to sit beside us. That kind of love allows the heart to rest. Performance never does. Performance keeps asking, what do I need to do next? Love simply says, come and sit down. The trouble is that so many of us learned very early that approval seemed to follow achievement. We were praised for being helpful, responsible, easygoing, or successful. Those things are not wrong in themselves, but sometimes we quietly concluded that our value depended on us continuing to perform. Without noticing, we carried that lesson into adulthood and into our relationships. Suddenly, we're not simply loving someone, we're managing their moods, solving their problems, anticipating their needs, and measuring our success by whether they are pleased with us. That's exhausting because the audition never ends. Every day feels like another callback. It's a bit like tidying a house because someone's coming to visit, then noticing one cushion isn't sitting straight, or you straighten it and then you notice a fingerprint on the mirror. You clean that and then you're polishing teaspoons that nobody will ever look at. Somewhere along the line you forget that they're coming to see you. They're not coming to expect the cutlery. Yet relationships can become exactly like that. We become so busy perfecting ourselves that we forget the whole point was to be known, not to deliver a flawless performance. One of the greatest needs behind this topic is the need for security. A secure heart doesn't have to constantly ask, am I enough today? It isn't frightened that one mistake will cost the relationship. It isn't walking on eggshells, wondering whether love has conditions attached. Security allows us to relax into being ourselves. It gives us permission to laugh, to make mistakes, to disagree, to have a bad day, and still know that we are valued. That doesn't happen where love has to be earned every morning. It happens where love has already made its decision. Sometimes we audition because we're afraid of rejection. Rejection hurts. None of us enjoys it, but there is something even more painful than being rejected. It's spending years pretending to be someone else just to avoid rejection, only to discover that nobody ever really knew the real you. Acceptance loses some of its sweetness if it was earned by a version of yourself that never actually existed. Jesus never invited people into an audition. He simply said, come unto me, all ye that labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I love that invitation because there is no performance attached to it. He didn't say, come once you've improved yourself. He didn't say, come once you finally become impressive. He said, come. Rest is offered for achievement. That tells me something about the nature of God's love. It begins with acceptance, and from that acceptance, we begin to change. So often we try to reverse that order. We think if we change enough, perhaps we'll finally deserve love and be accepted. Have you ever written a text message, read it 5 times, changed one word, added an emoji, removed the emoji because it seemed a bit too enthusiastic, put a full stop, removed the full stop because it looked too serious, then finally press send only to receive a reply saying, okay. Just 2 letters after all that emotional editing. It's one of those moments that makes us smile because we've all overthought something at least once. But many people do exactly that with relationships. Every conversation becomes carefully managed. Every opinion gets filtered. Every disagreement gets softened. Every need gets postponed because we're trying to keep the other person happy. We slowly edit ourselves until we barely recognize our own voice. That isn't love. That's fear wearing a very polite smile. Another need behind this subject is the need to belong. We all long to feel that we have a place where we don't have to prove ourselves. Somewhere we can exhale. Somewhere where we don't have to keep checking whether we've said the right thing. Somewhere where our presence is enough. Healthy love creates belonging. Healthy love creates probation. Healthy love creates belonging. Unhealthy love creates probation. It keeps extending the trial period but never confirms the appointment. You keep hoping that next month you'll finally feel secure, yet the goalposts quietly move again. That's when the heart becomes tired, not because it stopped loving, but because it never stopped auditioning. Sometimes we've been trying harder to earn love when what we actually needed was the wisdom to recognize where love already exists and where it never truly did. The Apostle Paul wrote that love is patient, love is kind, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. I notice that real love is described by what it consistently does, not how intensely it makes us feel. Genuine love has a quiet steadiness about it. It isn't constantly testing us to see whether we deserve another day of affection. It doesn't keep a scoreboard. It doesn't require us to shrink ourselves to make someone else comfortable. It leaves room for honesty, dignity, and peace. If today's meal has reached your heart, perhaps the nourishment you needed was this simple reminder. You were never created to spend your life auditioning for a role that was already yours. Your worth is not awarded because someone finally chooses you. Your worth existed before they arrived, and it will remain when they leave. The healthiest relationships don't ask you to become someone else in order to be loved. It makes it safe for you to become more fully yourself. And perhaps today your heart can finally step off the stage, lay down the script, stop waiting for the judge's scores, and discover the quiet freedom that comes from knowing that real love doesn't applaud your performance. It welcomes your presence. And I think that's important because some of us, we audition and we don't even realise. Always trying to put on a performance without realising. We're not being our true selves. We're making sure we're saying the right words in the right way so that people will think that's who we are. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Until the next meal. And remember, Lady Loy is on Lovers Rock Radio every Friday, 7 till 9, and Saturdays on Gold Standard Radio, the same time.